Okay, everybody, if you're back, that means you are here for video number two. This video is going to focus primarily on writing your body paragraphs for your essay. Now, the body paragraphs, as you know, are basically where you're going to talk about the three different characters who broke through various barriers. You're going to give me some examples to support your analysis, and you're going to draw some meaningful conclusions about them. Right? So, this is video number two, meaning you should already be done with video number one, the introduction paragraph. So, all of these boxes for introduction, they should all be completely filled in on your outline. If these boxes are not completely filled in and not done completely, then you are ahead. You should go back to video one and finish video one first and complete these boxes before moving on. But if you're here, I'm assuming you're ready to go to your body paragraph, which is body paragraph one. There are three body paragraphs, though: body paragraph two and body paragraph three, all focusing on a different character who broke through or encountered and broke through a specific barrier. Now, for body paragraph one, first thing you're going to want to do is review your thesis statement. So I'm going to review my thesis statement. Now, of course, mine's not complete because mine is an example. Yours should be completed. But it says, throughout the film, several of the main characters, Colonel Robert Gould Shaw, Private Tripp, and Thomas Surlis, are all encounter personal, social, or racial barriers that they must break through to ultimately show that. And then I would have had finished that sentence with something a little bit more specific. All right. Now, body paragraph one, we'll focus then on my first character that I want to talk about. So the first character that I'm writing about is Colonel Robert Gould Shaw, the main character of our story. Right? So to write a body paragraph, I'm going to give you one example, and then you're going to have to do the rest of them on your own. I'm only going to do it one time, so you're going to have to model it over and over again properly. Okay? So the first thing you do to start off a paragraph is you want to have what's called the topic sentence. Right? Again, the topic sentence is a sentence that kind of just introduces the paragraph. So I'm going to talk about my first character, just introducing it for my essay. So I wrote this the first character who encounters both social and racial barriers that he must break through is Colonel Robert Gould Shaw, the main protagonist of the story. Again, this is just a sentence telling me what this paragraph is going to be about. And this paragraph is going to be about Robert Gould Shaw and the different barriers that he encountered. So, what I'd like you to do right now is to stop, pause the video, and write a topic sentence for your first character that you're writing about. Pause the video and do that now. All right, if you're back, then I'm assuming you have this box filled in and you're ready to go to talk about your first character. Right? So for my example, I'll be talking about Robert Shaw, but you might be talking about somebody different. All right. So now I have to give an example of a personal, social, or racial barrier that this character encountered. Right. And I don't want to give too much. I just want to give basically what was that barrier that Robert Shaw encountered. Right? And you want to do it kind of in chronological order. So if you have two examples, which you're going to need for this paragraph, you want to do whatever one comes first in the story. So watch how I do this. As the story begins, Shaw is asked to lead the 54th Massachusetts Regiment of all black soldiers, which is both a social and racial barrier placed before him. Right? This is like the first major barrier I think that Shaw encounters in this film. He's asked very early on in the movie by the governor of Massachusetts, to lead the 54th Massachusetts Regiment, the first all-black soldiers. Right, so this is not only is he breaking a new societal barrier that's never been done before by leading African American men in battle and in the army, but this is also a racial barrier being broken too, because all black soldiers have never been done before in the United States Army. So now I have my example, right? Very simple, one line, two lines, not two sentences, not too much. Now I have to get evidence or my support. Now remember, the evidence is going to come from your quotes. Again, remember, if you go back to here, you should have some quotes picked out on your note taking sheet. This is where these might come into play. So I have to support this moment with an example from the story. Right. So here's what I write. And I always want to introduce my quotes. I always want to give a little bit of context behind who's saying who to what or to who. So, after being asked to lead, Shaw tells his close friend, Cabot Forbes, remember this was his close buddy, and now I'm going to put a quote that he said. I am going to do it. Pretty simple quote, right? I'm even going to add more context. In response, Forbes questions him and asks, "You're not serious, right?" Forbes is like, "What are you doing? You know, like you're gonna lead this regiment. You're gonna break this barrier. This is a big moment, right?" Forbes definitely questions him. So I actually have two people talking here. You don't need to have that. You can just have a quote from your character. But again, I think this kind of conversation back and forth between Shaw and Forbes to me is something that is kind of important, right? Now, I have my example and I have my evidence. Now I need to explain, why is this personal, social, racial barrier significant? Why is this an important moment? I kind of already talked about it, but again, I want to explain in more detail why this is important. So this is going to be a bigger paragraph or a bigger part, because this involves really explaining what kind of barrier that was encountered and why this is all significant, important, right? So I'm gonna write both Shaw. Sorry, I'm making a lot of typos because I'm trying to type fast here. Both Shaw and Forbes understand the social consequences that Shaw would be facing by being the first leader of all black regiment. Of an all black regiment, right? But that's a nice explanation, but it's still not enough. I really want to elaborate. So there is clearly a racial barrier here too, as Shaw and his fellow white officers would have to train an army of former black slaves and some freemen too. These barriers put Shaw in an unprecedented, meaning never before done, unprecedented position. And he would be open to ridicule, mockery, and disrespect. I know I'm writing a lot here. From those who disagree with black troops in the army. All right, so tidying up the grammar here. So now you can see, look at this box. I really explained in detail the type of barrier that taking on the lead as a social and racial barrier, taking on the lead of the 54th Massachusetts Regiment, put Shaw in, right? He's facing some social issues, he's facing some racial issues. He's open to ridicule and mockery and disrespect from all those people who don't think he should be doing this, right? This is a big barrier that Robert's crossing. He's the first one to ever do this, right? Now that the last part, did this character overcome the personal, social, racial barrier? If so, how? If not, then what does this tell the audience? This is where you got to ask myself: did they defeat this barrier? Did they overcome it? If so, how did they do it? If not, what did we learn from that not overcoming it? So I would write something like Shaw takes on this task and ultimately, and then I'm not going to write anymore. I'm going to pause right there, and I don't want to give too much away. I'm already writing a lot here, and I don't want to be writing your whole essay for you. So, but then I would have to talk about whether or not I thought Shaw's taking on this task, and whether or not he was up to it. Did he encounter this? How did he encounter this barrier? What did it do to him? Again, the three dots means that I would just be writing more here in this box. Doesn't have to be too much, but basically you need to be answering this question in as much detail as you possibly can, right? And that is my first example. A, B, and C are done for example number one. So then I would have to write a second example, right? So I would write, another barrier that Shaw tackles in this story is when, and then I would write something else, another example, some other kind of barrier that he encountered, right? Later on, maybe in the story. Remember, I want to do something later. And then I would, give evidence, then answer why it was significant. And I would wash, rinse, and repeat that process, right? So I know that's a lot. So what I'd like you to do now is I'd like you to, in just a second, pause the video and write down uh, A, B, and C, and textual evidence, an example for your character. Try doing all this by yourself right now. A, B, and C, fill in those boxes. If you have to go back and watch these parts again, you can. So pause the video, do that now. All right, if you're back, then I'm assuming that you have your first example done. A, B, and C are completed and fully written out, right? And then what you need to do then is come down here and you need to do a second example, A, B, and C, just like you did the first one, only a different example that happens maybe later on in the story. So pause the video now and do your second example. All right. If you're back, then I'm assuming that you have this box done now too, which means you're now ready to conclude this paragraph. You should have two examples for your first character. Right? So now it says, what did the viewer ultimately learn about breaking through barriers from this character? So since I'm doing Robert Shaw, I would say something like the character of Colonel Shaw. Sorry, give him some respect here. Give him his title. Emphasizes, and you don't have to use the word emphasizes, but I like that word, to the audience that, and then I would talk about what did we learn from Shaw throughout this film? What was a big message that we got from his character, right? That's why I would want to complete this paragraph, talking just about Shaw. Right? So pause the video now and write a concluding statement for your first body paragraph. All right. If you're back then, I'm assuming that your first body paragraph is completely outlined. All your boxes are done all the way through the concluding statement, which means you are ready to go to body paragraph two. And body paragraph two is just a simple repeat of body paragraph one, only with your second character. And then, of course, body paragraph three is a repeat of body paragraph one and two, only with your third character, right? And then that leads you all the way to the conclusion, which we'll do on a separate document. So if you're done with body paragraph one, you're ready to move to body paragraph two, or you're now going to talk about a different character. So you could start off by saying, you could start off by saying something, a transition like the second character who encounters a personal and racial barrier throughout the film is, and then my second character is private trip. That's mine. Yours may be different. A runaway slave from Tennessee. I like to give some context to my characters. And I would write a whole paragraph now about Trip, right? Because remember, Trip was my second one that I had in my thesis statement. And then my third body paragraph would be about Thomas. But those are my three. So again, you want to do your three. So you're at this point now. You want to pause the video. Actually, we're at the end of the video. You just want to go back and complete all of your body paragraphs. And when they're all done, you're ready to write your conclusion. All right. Good luck to you.